Hello and welcome to Business Incorporated. Many thanks for joining us. I am Bolaji Akinwale. This week on the program, we are revisiting the Pension Summit. It's over 6 weeks since the first edition of the World Pension Summit for Africa was held here in Nigeria, and there have been some form of developments after then. Now, these will be examined by our guest, Mike Olayinka. He is a pension market consultant and the former chief executive officer of Oak Pensions. On our headlines, President Goodluck Jonathan kickstarts the disbursement of the 220 billion naira MSME fund in the country. The federal government has commenced the disbursement of the 220 billion naira micro, small and medium enterprises development fund in the country. 60% of the fund has been earmarked for providing financial services to women in order to address their peculiar financial exclusion circumstances. According to the guidelines of the fund, each state of the federation will be able to access the sum of 2 billion naira, which will be administered to beneficiaries at an interest rate of 9%.
In the first quarter of 2014, Nigeria's real GDP grew by 6.2%, mainly driven by an 8.2% growth in the non-oil sector. However, sustaining the developmental strides with a balanced and inclusive economic growth will depend largely on the provision of affordable and efficient financial services to the micro, small, medium enterprises, particularly the micro entrepreneurs who account for more than 90% of the MSME in Nigeria. It is imperative that this segment of the financial system be strengthened in order to forestall the inevitable adverse socio-economic consequences of financial exclusion.
Already, the central bank has signed a memorandum of understanding with the governors of Delta, Akwa Ibom, Osun, Oyo, Bayelsa, Gombe, Zamfara, Enugu, Ondo, and Benue states to access the fund.
For us as states, we've put some funds, but it's never enough because the number of people that require these funds, there are quite many. So now that we are getting some assistance from the federal government through the central bank, it is very encouraging.
Subsequently, we have known that the CBN has the capacity now to touch the rural people, to alleviate poverty, and then to create employment at the rural level.
It will go a long way in enhancing the challenges we are facing in tackling poverty in our respective states.
2% of the fund will also be made available for economically active, physically challenged entrepreneurs. The federal government has announced that the Corporate Affairs Commission would, as from October the 1st this year, begin the electronic registration for companies willing to set up businesses in Nigeria. The Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, Mr. Olusegun Aganga, disclosed this in Abuja during the quarterly meeting of the ministry and its parastatals. The meeting was held to review progress made so far in the implementation of the federal government's policies, as well as to discuss some of the challenges confronting the ministry. According to Mr. Aganga, online registration would help to reduce the cost of doing business significantly, as well as the time it takes for local and foreign investors to set up their outfits in the country. Aganga also said the Nigerian Industrial Revolution Plan was being implemented effectively, adding that 5 new policies would soon be unveiled for the steel, textile and garments, palm oil and vegetable oil, cocoa processing and petrochemical sectors. The minister said the federal government had commenced a pilot program to help farmers to borrow up to 75% of the value of their commodities in the custody of the Abuja Securities and Commodity Exchange. The nation's foreign debt has risen by 40% to $9.38 billion, up from $6.7 billion recorded last year. According to the latest data from the Debt Management Office, the local debt component of the total national debt was currently at 8.9 trillion naira, up by 37.1% from 6.49 trillion naira at the end of March 2013. The nation's total public debt has also risen from 10.1 trillion naira as of March 2014 to 10.4 trillion naira as of June 2014. The Director General of the DMO, Dr. Abraham Nwankwo, revealed that the 9.3 billion naira external debt profile represented an increase of $500 million or 5.6% over the $8.8 billion figure recorded as of December 31, 2013. According to him, when the foreign and local debt figure is combined, the country's debt to gross domestic product ratio is now 12.51%. Dr. Nwankwo, however, said the country's debt was still sustainable as the debt-to-GDP ratio was still below the global allowable threshold of 26%. He, however, said the low debt-to-GDP ratio was not an indication that the country would borrow excessively, since the tax-to-GDP ratio was still very low at just 6%. The DMO boss gave an assurance that the borrowed funds had been well invested in building critical infrastructure for the country, adding that the agency would continue to put in place structures that would ensure prudent management of the nation's debt. For instance, the $1.5 billion from the country's Eurobond is being invested in the power sector to boost activities there and boost power supply. Other development plans are underway. On the international debt markets, Nwankwo said Nigeria's issuance of a sovereign bond had equally paved the way for 9 indigenous firms to issue bonds at the international debt market and raise $3.4 billion.
We'll go on a break and we'll be back shortly.